Live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. It's a couple of minutes after 10 o'clock in the morning of Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. And this is the regular public business meeting for the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. All commissioners are present. That constitutes a quorum. As we do at the beginning of every month, we introduce new hires, people who have joined the county in the past month. But before that, we recognize service milestones for employees who have been with us 5 years or more. And we have 5 scheduled today. Saka Koi, Health and Human Services, 5 years of service. Are you with us? Okay. How about Dana Whitaker, 5 years of service with transit? Nope.
Hang on, sir. Okay, I'm gonna give this to Jane. Hang on. For Saka. Yep,
Cinda's here.
that was the last one you called there. Is there anyone?
Transit.
No.
All right, keep going.
Brianna Hernandez, 5 years with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office.
The sheriff's in the back.
Larissa Robinson, 5 years with HHS. She's here. Come on up, please, to receive your certificate and service bid. Congratulations.
Oh, we gotta stay there, sorry.
David Bradshaw, 15 years with the clerk's office. Okay.
Oh.
No, apparently not.
You don't.
Ready? Gotcha. All right, hold on, thank you.
All righty, Jaylene, you've got the usual introduction of the new folks.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, my name is Jaylene Cook and I am the Assistant HR Director for Lincoln County. We have a group of new hires here joining us. I'll have them come up and introduce themselves, but we do have a few folks that weren't able to join us today. Christoph Schaffner is rejoining us in the District Attorney's Office as a Deputy District Attorney 3. Ian Almeida is joining us in the Sheriff's Office as a Deputy Sheriff Patrol. Diedrich Molnar is joining us in Public Works as a park attendant. And Wendy Smith is joining the Transit Department as a transit dispatcher.
Well, let's see if this works here.
We hear you.
For the record, I'm Scott Schmalley, new hire vegetation control coordinator with Lincoln County Roads Department.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janet Capellas, and I'm with HHS as a Intellectual and Developmental Disability Service Coordinator.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm Isabel Cisco. I'm rejoining the county. I'm with the Department of Public Health and I'm with our harm reduction program. It's nice to see you all.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So must be Shelby.
All right, I'm Shelby Shupe. I'm the Equity Coordinator with Public Health with the Health and Human Services Department.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
3, 2, 1. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we've got a pair of proclamations and Veterans Green Light up first. So come on forward and I will read this resolution that we will consider called supporting Operation Greenlight, November 7th through 13th in Lincoln County. Whereas the residents of Lincoln County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all of the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life for our citizens. And whereas Lincoln County seeks to honor those individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually, with an estimated 20% increase to transition in the near future. Whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experienced high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life. And whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. And whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans. And whereas Lincoln County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Therefore, be it resolved, with designation as a green light for Veterans County, Lincoln County hereby declares from October through Veterans Day, November 11th, to a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. Therefore, be it further resolved that in observance of Operation Greenlight, November 7th through 13th, Lincoln County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or residence. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Keith Barnes, County Veteran Service Officer. I want to thank the board for the proclamation today and appreciate the support that the county has given our office. A couple things about our office that I wanted to bring out. In the fiscal year, first quarter, our county office brought in $69,960 in new claims to veterans within Lincoln County. That would equal out about $839,000 in yearly income to veterans in Lincoln County. We brought in over $251,000 in retro pay during that same quarter. So far this year, for fiscal year 22-23, we've brought in almost $1 million now into new funding into the county.
And that's since, excuse me, the beginning of the fiscal year,
Yep.
July 1st.
July 1st.
So we're less than halfway through that fiscal year. Okay, just wanted to make sure we had context for this.
So right now, our office is responsible for 1,548 claims, bringing in yearly amounts of $23 million. And these are tax-free monies coming into the pockets of veterans within Lincoln County. Sorry, Lincoln County. Today, I brought with us two of our veterans. Oscar is a World War II veteran. Let alone being a combat veteran, he is a Purple Heart recipient. Which means that he was injured during battle during World War II. To give you context, if you think of Band of Brothers show, he's the original Band of Brothers. He might not have been in the Airborne Corps, but he was assigned to a sister unit to the 502nd Airborne during World War II. He had not been recognized for his service-connected disabilities during his time putting in claims. He has not received any compensation for that injury. He came into my office, and because he's a World War II vet, I assigned him to Caroline. She hasn't had a chance to work with many of them, and so I gave it to her. She worked through and wrote up a claim, and it got denied. And she was furious when it happened. And she then appealed that claim and was able to get it through with her writing and her vigilance. And now he is a 100% disabled veteran. That brings an additional $3,300 into his monthly coffers. And let alone is just the what he deserves for his sacrifice. And unfortunately, this is 70 years later than what it should have been. But because of the dedication of Caroline here, and I want to always give her credit for the hard work that she did with that. Tony Molina, for many people, many of the veterans in Lincoln County know Tony. He's been active within the veteran community. Even if you go to the park here, the Veterans Park, you see his quotes in marble there. He came into the office. We've been working together for the year that I've been on the position. He came and he said, you know, I'm finally ready to do this again. And we were able to write a claim and get him bumped up to 100% also. That just happened this week. His claim, I think I called him on Monday to let him know that his claim had come through and that he had been bumped up to 100%. He is a Vietnam veteran. And were you also? Yes, he was a combat veteran in Vietnam. So we're still working through lots of claims for lots of these gentlemen and lots of these ladies that have been in combat situations and in distant foreign lands. So these are just a couple of the clients that we've really helped out within our office. I'm proud to have them come and join us today.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here. Could we get Oscar's last name, please, for the record? Well, thank you, sir. Thank you both for your service.
Is there anything either of you want to say today?
Thank you for having our Veteran Service Officer Keith. Keep him here to help us all.
And yeah, thank you. And speaking of Mr. Barnes, you received some very important accreditation recently. Could we talk about that, please?
Yes, sorry, it is on my notes.
Okay.
I just skipped over it.
Okay.
Through the process for over the last year, we've been working on getting our accreditation back to the office, and that just happened last week.
Right.
We completed I completed the training. Caroline is still going through the training, completed the training and tested. And then Monday, we showed up on the VA website. If you look for a VSO in Newport, Oregon, my name comes up now, which is very exciting. Also, that means that we no longer have to rely on ODVA, who has been very helpful, but to get claims processed, we can now do it directly from our office with all the signatures needed for a claim.
And congratulations. And again, from having worked with the Veterans Office for many years, I know that this is not a quick or easy process. It takes some sustained training and study. So kudos to you. And soon we'll be saying congratulations to Caroline as well, I'm sure.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Oscar.
So if I may, I'd like to thank both Keith and Carolyn for your work on behalf of the veterans. And as the proclamation points out, we need to give specific recognition to our veterans. So I'd like to specifically recognize Oscar for your service to our country in World War II, and you, Tony, for your service to our country in the Vietnam War. And thank you sincerely for your service to our country so that we can enjoy the freedoms and this way of life that we do today. Thank you very much.
If anybody needs a green light, I have some more here, so please feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
thanks so much. Whew. Commissioner Hunt, would you read the next proclamation, please?
Would it be
And-
appropriate to approve the resolution?
Oh, of course.
I'll move for-
Absolutely.
I'll move for approval of the resolution supporting Operation Green Light, November 7th through 13 in Lincoln County.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to support Operation Green Light. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's approved.
All right, I will read the proclamation proclaiming November as National Runaway Prevention Month in Lincoln County. whereas November is National Runaway Prevention Month, and whereas National Runaway Prevention Month began in 2002 and is presented each year by the National Runaway Safe Line, the federally designated national crisis and communication system for youth ages 12 to 21 who have run away, are considering leaving home, or are experiencing homelessness. And whereas runaway youth are often expelled from their home, have experienced trauma, struggle to meet basic needs, and are in increased danger of falling into high-risk situations, including human trafficking. And whereas Lincoln County Youth Tides Shelter is working to raise awareness, provide support, and offer resources for vulnerable young people in the community. Now therefore be it resolved that Lincoln County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim November as National Runaway Prevention Month in Lincoln County, and encourage all citizens to appreciate the role we can all play in advocating for and providing safe alternatives to this vulnerable population of young people.
The floor is yours. Introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Tony Campa, Director of Lincoln County Community Justice over the Juvenile Department, and this is Cindy Park, Supervisor of the Juvenile Department. In nationwide, there's 1 in 30 youth that are ages of 13 through 17 that have experienced a form of homelessness over a 12-month period. And in Lincoln County School District, 14% of enrolled students are homeless. Those were the statistics from 2019 through 2020. And Cindy is overseeing the shelter, so I'd like her to have some time.
I'm Cynthia Park. I am the supervisor over both the Youth Tides Shelter and the Juvenile Justice part of the Juvenile Department. In discussing the serious issue of runaway homeless youth, we wanted to discuss and share the Youth Tides program, a community resource that works in concert with local community partners to provide a safe environment for youth locally and throughout the state of Oregon. Youth Tides is a program within the Juvenile Department on Brook Street. We're located next to the skate park. Our staff of youth care specialists work 24/7 to provide youth with a safe and supportive place to live. We provide care for youth typically ages 12 to 18 who are runaway, homeless, or involved in other systems such as ODHS or the juvenile justice system. In the past 2 years, Youth Tides has provided housing for 19 youth who had experienced runaway or homelessness for a total of 980 days of care. The youth stayed at the shelter anywhere from 1 day to 400 days and counting. The average stay for our youth is about 52 days. Youth Tides staff work with our community partners to meet the physical, emotional, and educational needs of the youth in our care. This includes activities that also in fun activities such as e-bikes, going to a Blazers game last year, escape rooms, and most recently attending the Haunted Corn Maze. Youth are encouraged to develop plans for outings, come up with a budget with staff assistance, and then we go forward with that. We work with youth for independent living skills. Some of our youth will go back to families. Some of our youth will go on to live in an apartment or live on their own, and our staff is there to help them along the way. Lincoln County Youth Tides is a resource for youth, both locally and throughout the state. We need a consistent, safe environment and a place to call home.
Wonderful. Comments, questions?
I was just going to say that I think in the last 4 years since I have been a commissioner, there has just been so much growth in the Youth Tides shelter, including a name change, I think appropriately. But I think we've really shifted to trying to serve our local kids and our local community and providing that safe place. And you don't have to be justice involved to need a safe place. I think that's still sort of this lingering misconception in the community that those are bad kids or kids that got in trouble or whatever, and they're not. There's, like you said, there's 14% of enrolled students in Lincoln County are homeless. So this is a place older kids can go to be safe and not be homeless. So I just really am appreciative of both of your efforts and all of the staff at the Youth Tides Shelter and the kids. Frankly, the kids have a great deal of involvement in kind of shaping that place and shaping the staff. And I feel like we're just on a really good path with that facility. So thank you both.
Commissioner Hunt.
I would just add that it's frankly very sad that the age ranges from 12 to 21. I mean, when you look at the older end of that age range, you can understand that many of those individuals have had some opportunity to, I guess, develop some skills to survive. But when you look at the lower end of that range, it's really disheartening to me. Are there some specific activities or actions? How do you direct the activities of the department to those different age ranges? Obviously, the needs of somebody 12 probably are different, maybe significantly different than somebody that's approaching 21. How might you address that differential?
Absolutely. Our youth, when they arrive, are assigned a case manager that they work with, and that's one of our youth care specialists. We work with each youth individually, depending on what they may be involved with ODHS or other agencies. We partner with other agencies to help them at their level. An 18-year-old may need more independent living skills, and we would focus on that, where a 12-year-old might need just like a permanency plan, and we would work with DHS or what other individuals were involved to try to help that youth where they're at. So every youth that comes into our facility has an individualized plan.
I like that word, individualized. So very good. Thank you.
I want to express my appreciation for this important work as well. I know there's all kinds of reasons that youth wind up homeless. Just yesterday, I heard about an LGBTQ teen who was thrown out by their parents when they came out. And I know, unfortunately, that's not an isolated incident. This is a real and significant problem, and I appreciate the work that's happening. And also, we're a long way of having a fully baked plan yet, but at least we're doing research and planning that could lead to the juvenile detention and shelter building being remodeled to provide significant extra shelter space, because demographics change. The demand for youth detention fortunately has dwindled, but the need for shelter isn't going away. And so once again, I think we're being responsive to a real community need here. Thanks.
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion proclaiming November as National Runaway Prevention Month in Lincoln County.
And I'll second it.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 It's approved. And again, thank you both.
Thank you for your good work.
We move on to adoption of the consent calendar, routine items or items that we have discussed in previous meetings. And is there anything that staff or commissioners wish to highlight or remove for separate consideration?
Chair, we have an addition that needs to move up into consent. The approval of Brown Memorial proposal. Kristen, sound right to you?
Yes.
Need to take that to consent, so we'll add that.
So it is added.
Yeah, I see it under execution of documents.
I think I got it twice on accident.
Okay.
It's there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh, yes, I see that.
Mhm.
V2.
Hold on. Oh, yeah, 1 and 5. Yep.
Yeah,
So we
H1.
So we're
remove
okay?
H5.
Okay.
I see. It's on there twice.
I'd also like to highlight the letters that we are sending to both Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley. This was a request that came out of the Aquiniba Economic Foundation meeting last week, and it merely is in support of the city of Newport's efforts to get Senate approval for funding of replacement of the Big Creek dams, which of course are the critical water source for the city of Newport. The House has approved funding for that project. The Senate has not, so this letter really just supports other letters, particularly efforts of the city of Newport to get the Senate to approve funding for the Big Creek Dam replacement project.
Okay, Anything else that we want to call attention to? Not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval of the adoption of the consent calendar with the removal of item H5 as presented.
I second the motion.
All in favor of approving the consent calendar, please say aye.
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 It's approved. Now we move on to our decision and action items. Like to invite our finance director, Christina Shearer, to come forward as she has the first two items. Good morning.
Morning.
And if you'd introduce yourself for the record.
I am Christina Shearer. I'm the Finance Director for Lincoln County. Before you, you have two budget adjustments that contain a series of actions to adjust the fiscal 22-23 budget. These are fairly routine adjustments that have to do with timing and or just clerical corrections into the budget. I'm certainly available to answer any questions should you have any.
Okay, are there questions from the board?
No, pretty straightforward.
No questions from me either.
And would it be fair just to characterize these as fairly routine adjustments, the type that we usually have to make more than once during a budget year?
Entirely. These are generally related to the issue of timing. When we prepare the budget and go to the budget committee, we often don't have all of the information that we have by the end of the fiscal year. So some of these, actually quite a lot of them are carryovers for grants or programs that we thought we would fully expend through the end of the year and didn't. And so the funds carried forward into the fund balance and we're just reallocating that to expend it.
All right, thank you. Any further comments or questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion
First.
adopting resolution 22-11B general fund budget adjustment.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proposed general fund budget adjustment. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And now we move on to the community justice.
Actually, I
Fund.
think we have to
Wait,
do two.
I'm sorry. which-
We have to do two. Oh, no, sorry. I
Yeah,
was saying
that's
the
right, I was
same thing.
moving
Okay.
to the-
I thought you were moving on to something else.
If I may,
Yeah.
I'll move for approval of the resolution number 22-2-11C, Community Justice Fund Budget Adjustment for fiscal year 22-23.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second made for the Community Justice Fund budget adjustment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Sorry about that confusion.
No
Sure,
problem. Thank you,
yeah.
Christina. All right, Jane Romero, if you would come forward, please. This is an amended bid proposal for remodel of the interior of the HHS Nye Street building.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. For the record, my name is Jane Romero. I work as the County Health and Human Services Director. So I am before you again to request that you approve the bid submitted by Creative Contracting Incorporated for $466,000 for the renovation of the Nye Street building to house our Newport-based primary care clinic. I believe we stalled last week when we were discussing where the balance of the funds would come from. The bid of $466,000 is $216,000 short of the ARPA funds that you have approved for the renovation of the facility. Between last week and this week, we have identified our capital project fund. It's Fund 219 in Department 100, which has a balance of $1,491 as a fund that we could tap to cover the difference. We would the primary care division would in essence borrow the funds over a 5-year term from this fund amount, paying back $43,200 a year over the course of a 5-year term.
Questions or comments from commissioners?
No, I mean, clearly, the department has the ability to fund the project in total internally, and all we're being asked to do is approve the bid as it was submitted.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for kind of going back to the table with our county administrator and, as Tim would say, sharpening pencils and kind of figuring out a way to to do this. So much appreciated.
I'll echo that and also say, as was mentioned last week, this is a great and much needed project. I remember when the clinic originally opened at 1010, I believe that was 2007. And it was the best available space, but at that time, the commercial real estate market here was very strong and there frankly weren't that many choices available. And since 2007, the clinic has grown tremendously in terms of both scope of services and patient load. So I think this will provide a much better experience for the people in the community we serve, as well as our staff. So I'm happy to entertain a motion right now.
I'll move for approval of the amended bid proposal, RSS Architecture Project number 22.02.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve this remodel bid. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimously approved. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to, oh, yes.
So we have an item the item that was on consent, it's item 4. It's the second reading of ordinance 529. So
Okay.
that is a reading that needs to happen under decision action.
Okay.
And it's Mr. Gardner and Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay.
And Chair, we do have a constituent signed up for feedback on 529 as well.
Okay. If you'll introduce yourselves for the record and take it away.
For the record, John Rodriguez, building official for Lincoln County.
And Brian Gardner, Assistant County Counsel for Lincoln County.
And anything to add since we talked about this last week?
It was 2 weeks ago, so I just want to point out that it was 2 weeks ago. We have waited 13 plus days for the second reading. So first, I'd just ask if anybody wanted it read in full, or if we could just read by title.
Title only.
Okay.
Title only is fine.
Okay.
Let's see. Relating to Chapter 3 Lincoln County Building Code adoption of state and specialty codes, powers and duties of building official, permits and standards, violation enforcement, and civil penalties and appeals.
And I just wanted to point out again that what the language of this is doing is to update the building code to define building official, Mr. Rodriguez's responsibilities and authorities, and also to specifically adopt the state specialty codes, includes the language to do permit violations and the permit requirements. So they're specifically addressed, laid out, as well as enforcement and civil penalties. And it also gives a more clear process for appeals rights and procedures, basically ensuring due process for any objections to what Mr. Rodriguez determines. So the main purposes of it are to clarify those processes and authorities. And the goal is to increase the safety and value of Lincoln County structures for all of our citizens and visitors. And because of those concerns for safety, there is also an emergency clause provision in it to allow it to be in effect as of the date of signing, rather than waiting the 90 days if you so determine. Or if you have any questions or comments about that.
Questions or comments from the board?
I have none.
I don't have any, but my understanding is we do have some public comment related to this. So
Right. Is this by Zoom or in person, Mr. Miller?
Is in person.
Okay.
here. And it is Jim.
Casey, do you have the timer?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is James Behrens. I'm a lifelong Oregon resident, past owner of property in Lincoln County in an unincorporated area. I have high school alumni, college friends, past business associates, all that are your constituents. I probably will be one of your constituents in about 5 years when I move. Right now, I live in Coos Bay, which is the biggest city on the Oregon coast. And it's very refreshing that you finally are fixing chapter 3. You're doing 529. With these changes, it opens up the door to have short-term vacation lodging pick up fire sprinklers, not the type of fire sprinklers you see down on the beach in the new construction hotels, but a specific type of fire sprinkler that is used in residential applications. These are unmanaged, okay, remotely managed, unattended lodging units that sometimes are exceedingly over capacity. I know I've had them near me where I live in Coos Bay. So we have, with these changes, a change from a residential code to a specialty code, and it opens up sprinklers on your new applications. It's not going to solve the problem of the 3 or 4% of your housing units that you're using for vacation rentals. You really should only have about 1%. Coos Bay went with 1%. North Bend went with 1%. Bandon's rethinking theirs. They're now starting the process of changing things up in Clatsop County. I looked at these fellas' fees that they propose, and they are somewhat low. But fees are addressed in a different meeting with a different ordinance. But when that comes around, these are almost all out-of-state people or out-of-the-state people. And if they're going to open up a hotel, they should have to pay to have it properly inspected. And let me say one more thing about sprinklers and inspections. Every one of these that we looked at seriously in Coos Bay had code violations. Okay, and uninspected and unpermitted alterations that were not on the tax rolls. In other words, they didn't pay their fair share, some of them for decades in those buildings. And we all know from being lifelong Oregon residents, which I think there's a few of us in here, we're kind of rare, that building codes and enforcement all over the state were kind of wishy-washy for decades. So catching up is excellent. Very pleased to see you were able to recruit somebody and hire somebody from Eastern Oregon. All of these things are positives, but now you've changed something. And these mini hotels for Marriott, the ones that were opening up next to me down south, Marriott. I think Marriott can afford to put fire sprinklers in hotels when they have their little local agent open up their shop. All right, I think they can handle it. Thank you for your attention. Very short version of this. I've read enough of your staff studies, so I know you guys read a lot. Okay, and I'll hand it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your input, sir.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Mr.
We
Miller.
have written input on 529. It's on the website.
Yes.
But I don't believe Bob is going to talk about that today. So just be aware that it's online.
Okay. I believe we had a motion on the floor. No,
We've
we
already
didn't get
approved
that
it
far.
as part of the consent calendar. Have we
Oh.
not?
No, we're talking about,
It's under decision.
yeah, it is a decision. It's not on the agenda as such, but it has been added.
Okay, so I'm confused.
So we
I
need
should-
a motion to approve ordinance or what?
So I would have Mr. Gardner and Mr. Rodriguez. come.
Okay. Help us through this procedurally.
Yeah, so it was placed on, sorry, Brian Gardner for Assistant Lincoln County Council. It was placed on the consent calendar. Commissioner Hunt was correct about
Oh,
that.
okay.
It should have been on the decision action section of the calendar. And so what I'd ask is
Oh,
that.
I see.
Yeah, actually. That a motion be made pursuant to it being on the decision and action calendar, if that's what the board wants to do.
So essentially, we'll be improving it twice.
So just.
Well,
make a motion that it gets withdrawn from the consent calendar.
Oh,
Why don't we do that first?
but we already approved the consent
I
calendar.
know, but you're amending it.
Okay,
So I move that we amend the consent calendar that was previously adopted in today's meeting and remove item H4, ordinance number 529, second reading of building code ordinance number 529, relating to adoption of state and specialty codes, powers and duties of building officials, permits and standards, violation enforcement and civil penalties and appeals.
I'll second the motion.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And now we need a new motion, please.
I'll move for approval of our ordinance number 529, second reading of building code ordinance number 529, relating to adoption of state and specialty codes, powers and duties of building official, permits and standards, violation enforcement and civil penalties and appeals.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 All right. Are we ready to move to commissioner reports now? Just want to make sure there wasn't any other changes to the agenda. Okay, who would like to go first on commissioner reports?
I'll go first. So
Okay.
I think it was last week that I challenged our Lincoln County employees to send me pictures of them dressed up for Halloween or with fall colors or pumpkins or what have you to raise money for the Lincoln County Foster Parent Association. Tim was also matching my $1 per person donation. We had 82 county employees that participated. And we also counted the 3 dogs and 1 cat from the animal shelter that also participated by wearing their orange fur as a Halloween color. So thank you for everybody for participating in that. And I think we'll do it again next year too.
Wonderful. You have anything else, Commissioner?
That's it. Thanks.
Commissioner Hunt?
I have a couple of items. Number one, I attended the Economic Alliance Board meeting last week, and as I think I've reported, there's discussion about the economic development and community improvement grant process. My understanding is that Executive Director Paul Schutema of the Alliance is working on some of the items that their board would like to see changed, improvements to the entire project. And we'll hear more after he's completed that process and worked with Administrator Johnson. So moving forward on that. And second of all, if I am correct tonight, the Newport High School girls play a soccer playoff game toward eventually, we hope, becoming state champions. And I believe we have 2 children, 2 daughters of 2 employees on that team. I believe Charlotte, Assistant County Council Gardner's daughter, is on that team, and as is Abby Green, daughter of County Council Kristen Ewell. So best of luck to the Newport High School girls soccer team tonight and in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll report on a few things. Friday, I participated with many others in the groundbreaking for Wecoma Place, a 44-unit apartment complex in the city of Lincoln City off of 29th Street. It will be not only provide affordable housing for families, but there will also be resident services on site. And that event was, I think, a really good illustration of how it takes a village to make housing happen. Not only I was there along with the Director of Oregon Housing and Community Services representing the state. We had city officials. We had the Housing Authority of Lincoln County, which is developing this new project in partnership with a private developer, at contractors, resident service people, and just really great to see more housing underway, especially on the heels of not very long ago, ground was broken and work started on the 107-unit 25th Street project there. I would also add that yesterday, a subcommittee of our State Homeless Planning Grant Committee, myself, Peggy McGuire of Seeds Community Services Consortium, Mayor Rod Cross of Toledo, and Mayor Greg Holland of Waldport interviewed the 6 candidates who submitted to us proposals for developing our 5-year comprehensive homeless plan as required by the state grant, and also standing up a sustainable navigation center. So all good presentations. Mr. Johnson is going to do follow-up checking on some of the firms, and hopefully our subcommittee will have a recommendation to the full committee by our next meeting next Wednesday afternoon. And I believe that is all that I've got. So we'll continue on public comment. I believe we received 1 written public comment earlier this week, and that's been made available to the commissioners. Do we have anybody online? If you are online and wish to offer up to 3 minutes of public comment on any topic, please use the raise hand function in Zoom.
So I believe we've got Linda. Oh, good job, Linda.
Okay.
And Linda, you're live.
Thank you. I have 3 items I'd like to cover. The first one is there's a new property on the market. Pardon?
Excuse me, we need your full name for the record, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just took for granted Casey said it. Linda Nigebauer, 3914 Northwest Cherokee Lane, Newport, Oregon.
Okay, go ahead, please.
There is a new property on the market at the corner of 101 and Northwest 6th. It is the old ProBuild current First Source building. It is over 24,000 square feet, 1.77 acres, and the price is $2 million. And I can see it either as an animal shelter or a homeless shelter. One of the reasons it would make a great animal shelter is that it's got access to veterinary care. It's central to the population it serves, is easily reached by public transportation, accessible to major highways, convenient and accessible to the community, and has good road visibility. That's just for your information only. I'm sure you've seen that, but it was kind of interesting to see it's in such a nice place. The next thing I'd like to talk about was on the agenda of the October 19th, 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting. And it was approval of a time and materials contract for the 4-H barn presented by Tim Johnson. And I wanted to point out that the Fair Board and the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners met February 22nd, 2019, and approved a master plan concept for the county, for the county grounds. And in that, it said that new structures would include a multi-purpose building, a pavilion, and a 4-H livestock barn. And what you're suggesting happen right now is that building be renovated. The grant amount is $277,000, though the project completion deadline is not until May of 2025. If you look at the map that was included with the report, you'll see that that building is moved to an area just east of the arena. And the current place where the current location of that building has become a green space. So I wonder if you are going to go back and use the report that was presented by that committee or change that. The next one is a report again on the county commons. I want to go back in history to the year 2000. And there was a list prepared by Evelyn Burkheiser, giving a list of different activities that could generate income for the county fair or for the fairgrounds. The list is horse shows, dog shows, llama shows, miniature donkey shows, rodeos, goat shows, pet shows, livestock shows, bird expo, lamb show, car shows, RV shows, sportsman show, gun show, craft fair shows, antique shows, quilt shows. These are all shows, of course. Auctions, gem and mineral shows, Christmas show, circus, concert, fiddlers convention, religious conventions, motorhome retreats, banquets, corporate picnics, parties, birthdays, and weddings. That was 2000, the year 2000. In the year 2015, the Blue Ribbon Fair Committee submitted their vision and mission statement. And in that, they stated that the Lincoln County Commons shall be utilized to the fullest extent for pleasure, recreation, and public benefit, and for the holding of any exhibits, shows, carnivals, circuses, dances, entertainments, or public gatherings. Just recently, on October 7th, at your meeting, a background plan was suggested, but it's not following the reports that were submitted in 2015 and 2018. It's going outside of that. And if you do look at 2019, oh, I know what it was. It was, my notes get confused here.
Linda, so we're
Mhm.
past 3 minutes, just an
Okay.
FYI. Okay.
May I have about 15 more seconds?
Sure.
The group that presented, which was Oak View Group on that date, gave a list of all kinds of things that extend beyond the recommendations that have been made by various groups. The last one being on February 19th at the revised master plan meeting. And it serves as event space, grow local events, support the youth, support tourism, and provide a connection to the county's tradition and history. And the Fair Board and County Commissioners both approved the plan in 2019 that would include the public in decision-making on the use and the construction and the design of this facility. Just want to know where we're going with that. Thank you.
Thanks for your input, Linda. Do we have anybody else online or signed up here in the room for public comment?
Chair, no one else in the room. And no other hands raised virtually. And I just would add, we had 2 other items of constituent input. They are online.
Right, at this point, I think we're ready for adjournment. I'll remind everyone that the next meeting of the Board of Commissioners, Monday, November 7th, 10 o'clock, our office staff and board briefing. Wednesday, November 9th, our public Board of Commissioners business meeting, both in this room, both starting at 10 a.m. and both streamed live on our YouTube channel. Until then, we're